Welcome to Financial Services What's Up?
This podcast brings together experts from the financial service world to figure out what financial market participants could and should be doing to embrace the biggest challenges and opportunities of the financial sector.
I'm Björn Ebert, the Financial Service Leader at PwC Luxembourg.
And I'm Sandra Paulis, an asset management partner at PwC here in Luxembourg, and very keen to discuss our industry together. So welcome back to the Financial Services What's Up podcast, where we unravel the complexities and opportunities of the financial services sector in Luxembourg and beyond. And a warm welcome to Björn Ebert.
Thanks, Sandra. Great to be back. And I have to say, my voice is not in the best shape because I had a quite intensive week last week at our EMEA PwC AWM conference in London. I think it was a great event, but as I said, intense. Therefore, excuse my voice a bit, but I think it will be good for the podcast. How about you, Sandra?
Yeah, no worries. We can deal with that. I'm really happy that we're all together here, and we also have some special guests to announce for this episode. So we are excited to have Ananda Kautz, who is joining us today from the Association of Banking Professionals in Luxembourg, so the ABBL. Ananda brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in the banking sector, and we are really thrilled to have her with us, especially because of her view in terms of innovation, payment, and sustainability.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we have Julie. Julie is our Luxembourg banking industry leader. And Julie has been driving a recent study on banking trends and figures. And we are really delighted to have her here and to hear more about the insights on the study.
Hello. Thank you to be with you today.
So then I propose we kick it off. And first of all, I would like to set the scene in giving an overview of the current banking environment and giving a few numbers, a few key indicators about the highlights of the industry. Julie, can you share a few of them with us?
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Well, basically, and just to go back, and you mentioned our recent trends and figures. So that's a publication we have on a yearly basis in which we have a specific focus, but I will not spoil the podcast.
No, not yet.
Later. And we have also a part on trends, but figures as well. And so if we want to have a brief overview of the banking sector in Luxembourg, to date, we have 119 banks. Well, roughly 2/3 of subsidiaries, 1/3 as being branches, coming from all over the world. So a lot of like European-based, Chinese-based, US-based, but as well the rest of the world. And ranging as well, I think, and that's linked to the history of Luxembourg, private banking, asset services for traditional usage and the alternative world now. We also have corporate banking. That's a model that the Chinese bank have chosen, and a few others as well. So basically, you want it, you name it, it's in Luxembourg. If we look a bit at figures and trends, so we have really stable employment level, ranging roughly around 26,000 employees, which is quite stable over the past few years. A total balance sheet of 39 and 30 billion. Same, we demonstrate stability here. Very big boost of the profitability and the profit last year, mostly linked to the increase in interest rates.
That was really favorable for them, I guess.
Yeah, but it comes with some constraint as well. So 6.6 billion versus 3.9 billion in 2022. Quite solid as well and quite a resilient banking sector when it comes to solvency ratio, with an average ratio at 33.8%. So that's quite a bit of information I can share of our banking sector in Luxembourg.
So thank you very much for giving this overview. I think this sets the scene in terms of diversity that we have and also the asset management angle. Ananda, you want to add something from an EMEA perspective, or what else makes Luxembourg unique?
Yeah, I can only maybe add a little bit to the figures that was already shared by Julie. Actually, on the private banking, we just have now our survey with CSSF, ABBL and CSSF, and I can share the latest figures that we have on assets under management. So we are actually at 628. So that brings us as a first private banking center in the Eurozone. So we're very well positioned.
Congrats ourselves.
Well, we can continue doing better, but I mean, it's a good progression really on the private banking sector. On the corporate investment banking, what's also interesting, I think, to highlight is the focus on international markets, because we have 70% of the corporate lending, which is cross-border in that sector. And then when it comes to depository and custody banking, we have quite a lot of variety of providers as well. On the pension funds, banks, companies, insurance funds being the main providers of services in that context. And then maybe just to complement with some of the growing areas that we see right now. So we can also say the sustainable finance, it's we are getting to a level which is really interesting. In Luxembourg, we have the first green exchange in the EU, which is the 5th worldwide. We also the leader in the sustainable finance funds, and we have been the pioneer in the labeling of sustainability investments. Maybe a second thing that's interesting also on the development is the expansion of the corporate business banking, and I think that Julie mentioned some new players that arrived, US, UK, and Brazilian banks also in that area. So that's quite interesting. Maybe for some of the players that are already here in the market, what we also see, it's a growing interest in digital assets, tokenization, and DLT applications as well. So that's also a lot to do with the legal framework. So as you see, the blockchain 4 proposal that it brings a legal framework for dematerialized securities and DLT, which can make also Luxembourg positioning itself in this as a leading DLT financial sector. So, and then finally, we also have the payment and e-money institutions, which are not in the banking side itself, but also a very important activity in the financial sector. There are 23 licensing payment institutions in Luxembourg today, and 15 e-money institutions. So that's also a very growing market.
Yeah, we're looking at them a little bit later, a bit more specifically, because I think that's an interesting segment that not a lot of people are aware of. So that's already an amazing oversight. We had plenty of numbers, for you to remember. Björn, anything that you would like to add that we haven't spoken about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I fully concur to Ananda, and I think if you look at the Luxembourg place compared also to Europe, we are quite diverse. And if you look at the profitability of the sector here in Luxembourg, you have normally a 50-50 split. That means interest income is 50% and 50% commission. If you compare this to Europe, it's 70% interest income and 30% commission. That's specific to Luxembourg, and that also makes us quite robust. And if I'm looking forward, most probably in 25, there will be pressure on the interest margin, which should be compensated by the fee income on other activities, and that will probably for European banks a much more challenge than we have here on local level. I think that's for me an important point. The other question for me, and based what I know on Luxembourg level, is the asset quality. So I have seen in 24 not really big impairments. We stay quite stable in terms of loan quality, less impairments. European level, I have similar picture, but really looking forward 25, what that means also on European level, if we see a hit there or not. But for Luxembourg, I'm quite confident. I think that's the two main points I would like to add.
Okay, so we're still drawing a pretty positive picture of Luxembourg. We heard some of the challenges that come up on the horizon. I think, Ananda, a question to you would be, when you're talking to your members of the ABBL, what would be the challenges that you see coming up? What is actually keeping then your members awake at night?
Yes, I think, as Julie said, I think it's a challenge is maintaining the performance that we have seen so far in these different activities. We have seen constant growth in the different areas that we just mentioned. So keeping that is, of course, always a challenge. Apart from that, I would say that regulation and compliance costs it's not new, but it continues to be an increasing challenge for the banks. Why? Because we have a study that shows that the cost of compliance in Luxembourg banks today, it's up to 550 million. That's a lot.
It's massive.
Yeah. And we have had increasing regulatory requirements. We just talked about before actually starting the podcast. So that reduced the agility and the competitiveness of our financial sector. So we need to keep that in mind and try to be smart in the way that we push forward the regulation. So we would like to continue to engage in constructive exchanges with the regulator, push for smarter and more efficient regulation with a focus on proportionality. and also to streamline compliance processes and benefit also from the technologies to ensure that we can improve the compliance processing and automate some kind of reporting as well. So that's for the first challenge on the regulatory side.
Oh, you have several ones.
Yes. Many. So the second one, it's more on the talent attraction. So I think that's also something.
I think commonly known in Luxembourg. I think banking is not the only industry that faces this challenge. It's a European challenge.
Yeah. But actually, why it's a challenge for us? When we look a little bit further, we see that we will need to replace 50% of our workforce by 2035 because of the retirement of baby boomers and the Gen X. So that's very concrete in terms of the figures. We also have, of course, competition with international markets in talent pools across the globe. And also a study that we have done just now with private banks and their digitalization, we see that 52% of the private banks now lack the digital skills in-house. So we'll be talking about digital transformation. That's really important. And then, half of the banks don't have the digital skills to make that digital transformation happen. So that's also a big challenge in the context of the talent attraction. So some of the actions that we are taking, it's expanding the recruitment beyond the traditional markets that we have usually very much concentrated on the very near cross-border. We're going further to connect with the students and experienced professionals. Also thanks to LFF, that's putting a lot of focus there. They have a nice promotional campaign about Luxembourg, and we need to develop the career paths that we can develop here in Luxembourg, and also work on the agility and the competencies of the different employees. That's for the second one. Go to the third studio about the third one. Third one is it's digital transformation. Why it's a challenge? Because AI represents such a transformational opportunities on one side, but also we see the risk of competitive disadvantages for the late adopters. So it's really a train that we must take. There we also see some of the actions related to the legacy systems of the banks that need to be upgraded in terms of core systems and technological platforms, the development of AI capabilities, as we just mentioned, but also the enhancement of cybersecurity measures. And very, very important is the data quality, of course, and the data management infrastructure that we need in order to use all the data that we have in the financial sector. So that's mainly the three challenges, and then we have many more challenges if we would like to speak about how to finance the sustainability transition that will require a lot of capital as well. We think that we can play in Luxembourg an important role because of the cross-border capital markets that we have here in Luxembourg, opportunities for that. So challenges and opportunities.
Yeah. Okay, then maybe let's try to twist them a little bit into opportunities and what we see. So you touched base on the digital transformation, but also on AI. And I'm curious to hear from you, what are actually the elements where AI is already starting to build use cases? What are the elements that we see in terms of adoption of AI in banking? I don't know, Björn, whether you have an example, or Ananda.
Yeah, sure. Actually, so our members are in different stages in their AI, adoption, experimenting, testing, some implementing. Also, the use cases are very different.
What do you see, for example?
Risk management, it's number one for sure. It's not new in terms of usage of AI, but this has been already a long time in the detection of fraud and improvement in AML, threats. That's one. Second one, it's operation efficiency and cost management. I think that's also one of the key priorities. It's related to enhance the productivity across the financial institutions. And we also now see use case around customer experience, which could be related to usage of chatbots to the client, but also basic tools like translation of documents instantly, and so on. So the banks are actually taking all the requirements of the EU AI Act into consideration. So that's also something that it's upon interpretation. So it needs to be carefully thought upon. And as said, I think that in parallel to this, they are also working on the data quality, data infrastructure, the governance framework.
That's many elements that are
exactly.
coming
So,
together, which they need to make
it's a lot
sure
of work, but it's a lot of opportunities as well.
And I absolutely concur what Ananda just said, because we launched on Monday our GenAI business survey, and the top 3 business objectives has been really efficiency, number 1. Then the second one is really upskilling the employees. And the third one really then to create new products, new revenue streams, customer experience. That's fitting perfectly in the picture. I mean, based on use cases, for us, when we talk to our clients in the GenAI Business Center, is for the moment really focused on operational efficiency. We see it also a lot in the IT department, because you can easily program new software with GenAI. That's a big use case, and I think also a big cost block which you can take out of the organization going forward.
This is really an element that is coming through now in the discussion around GenAI, is actually the low cost of entrance. That there's not massive multi-billion dollars for transformation, but GenAI has actually a pretty low entry level.
Absolutely. I mean, you can have a transformation project. It's normally a couple of millions. Here you can talk about small use cases, 10, 15, 20K. Easy like that. And if you take really the IT software programming, it's really easy to use, and it's really, you can really have high efficiency gains there. And I look at it across the value chain in banking. There's many, and we also back office place somehow in Luxembourg, many elements where you can really increase efficiency. I mean, that is one big part. And the other one, which we are more and more seeing, that you can use also GenAI to create personal advice, because you can use all the data in the bank of the customer, and then you can really tailor investment portfolios for them on a really tailored basis. Or more forward looking, you can use the data to do some cross-selling, credit cards, insurance stuff. You can really use that more, and that's when it generates really more and more revenue. That's, I think, the 2 big parts we are seeing.
So there's the element of the cost efficiency, making sure that you remain competitive and still compliant, but also the revenue generating part that is coming through. Any other elements, Julie, that you would like to add to the discussion?
Well, I think it's quite interesting. It comes with a few challenges. And
we had already some of them.
We had some of them, and I fully agree with what Ananda stated. We have quite old legacy systems that we have to take into consideration. We need computing power. So hence moving to the cloud as well. That comes with some regulation, DORA, where our players will have to be ready by January next year. That's really coming right now. But when we're talking about of the challenges, and where I see big potentials as well, and Ananda, you referred to it on the cost of compliance and the cost of risks. GenAI and like quite a few of the use cases that we are discussing with our clients right now, and that are efficiency driven, is how to reduce the cost of compliance. GenAI is not there to replace the human in the loop. We need to keep human in the loop, but really it's on augmenting the capacities and the possibilities of what we do, being more efficient. If you look at like recent use case, we have looked everything around due diligences to perform, and we have more and more questionnaires to fill in, to analyze all those due diligence, even on the KYC side. Here, GenAI can really help you be much more powerful and drive those efficiency for better competitiveness that we're looking at as well. And as you were saying, not with huge costs. So that's really interesting aspects to have a look to. And as Björn was mentioning as well, and I think that's much more like short to medium term, how to generate new revenues, new source of revenues, and better advise the client.
Okay, so thank you for all those elements that you brought here to the discussion. Now I would like to turn the discussion a bit more towards the future and the new type of businesses that are coming to Luxembourg. And I learned about a new word, the WASPs.
Which are becoming the CASPs.
So Ananda, can you share a little bit more about the virtual asset service providers. What is this about, and where do you actually see that linking in with the traditional banking system?
Yeah, now in the context of MiCA, we are talking about the CASP, so the crypto asset service providers, which as from the 30th of December of this year, they're gonna have entities which are going to actually develop some crypto asset services. They will need to have this license, and this license is going to include prudential and organizational requirements, and it's going to be, of course, supervised by the CSSF. So it creates very high standards for the consumer and investor protection. So that's very positive. And here we have a great opportunity in Luxembourg to attract those new, let's say, licensing entities here to Luxembourg, as a little bit like we did with the payment institutions, the e-money institutions, at the moment that we had open banking with PSD2, the Payment Service Directive, which created a new, let's say, category of players which were providing payment service to the customers, and we were able to attract them because of the European passporting, let's say, rights that we have, because we have a very well-established ecosystem here, and also because of the good collaboration that we have between the regulator and the industry. So I think that with this CASP, it's a new opportunity for development. I also see, with now moving from open banking to open finance, with there is going to be a new regulatory proposal coming up in relation to opening much further the data, not only on payments, but also to other types of products, financial products. And in this context, there is also going to be a new licensing that is going to arrive, which is going to be called the FISP, the Financial Information Service Provider. And there we also have to position ourselves as Luxembourg to attract those new entities. So a lot of opportunities as well on that side. And I think us as a Luxembourg Banking Association, we have enlarged much our sector to include also those new players, and we also represent them, and we have good relationship also with the CSSF to represent and to help them as well to be represented.
So is it fair to say that European regulation is actually that we are pretty smart in adopting it and also making an eco-space using the cross-border experience that we have to attract them? I think you mentioned previously that for the VASPs, there are almost 30 players that are here in Luxembourg that have built up over the years, so that's pretty significant around it. So you see also those elements of growth coming for the CASPs in the future.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we try to be also with LFF, all the work that they do to promote Luxembourg outside, and recently ABBL has also been present in the Singapore FinTech Festival, and that's also where you meet those kind of players, and you can speak about Luxembourg and position them into the map. So we hear that Luxembourg has a lot of attractiveness in this context. So we need to continue to support this. And I think that also the fact that we have a quite unique ecosystem in terms of, family offices, wealth managers, philanthropy experts. We have the external management companies. We also have the PSF, the support, which is quite a unique setup here in Luxembourg. And we also have the consulting firms and the law firms that we need in order to implement new business here. So I think that we have the right ecosystem as well to support this development.
Okay, taking a next step into the future and bringing in the fintechs, that's also an interesting aspect that is always coming up. Banks are sometimes perceived as being not traditional. Julie, you mentioned already the legacy systems that are there. Sometimes a little bit of disruption. I feel that this is really helpful. What are your thoughts about that?
Now, for us, we really understand that we need a lot of innovation in our sector. That's really going to be the key successful factor for the future. And fintechs can bring that innovation that, in order to be much quicker in the time to market, to have the good ideas, to have the technology as well. And what we have and the fintechs don't have, it's the capital and the volume. So we have the money and we have the customers. So it's just a perfect match, actually, between those fintechs and the banks. So we have created at ABBL FinTech Forum in which we collaborate with the Loft in order to put fintechs in front of the CEOs of the banks and the banking community, and to put them to work
so
together
that they get
and
to know each
definitely
other.
to get
Yeah.
to know each other. So we have an annual speed meeting event between CEOs and founders. We also have during the year different events in order to let those fintechs pitch in front of the bankers and to let them know what's happening in the market. So we really believe that thanks to that we can accelerate the digital transformation. Our sector is going to be a lot about collaboration between banks and fintechs.
Definitely. I think that's a good idea to make actually the speed dating that they can get to know each other. So you can say great work done from you, but all the other organizations to actually bring them to Luxembourg and make them meet the local banks.
I think it's also perfectly fitting in the overall strategy in Luxembourg with the Loft, Lux Innovation, which really facilitating really fintechs and startups for the financial place, and that's why I think that's fitting perfectly in that initiative ABBL is doing.
Okay. So thank you very much for this look into the future. Is there any other topic where you say, hey, listen, Sandra, if we have banking trends and figures, Luxembourg as a banking place looking into the future, what are the elements that we didn't discuss yet?
I think we were quite complete. Otherwise, we would need 2 hours for the whole podcast online, and then you would not be happy with me. I said, Lou would not be invited anymore. Exactly.
Yeah. And then we are starting to talk regulation, which we not necessarily want to do all the time, Okay, so then we are coming to the famous question at the end. So at the end of the episode, we wrap it up with a number that actually struck our guest. So Ananda, what is the number that caught your attention and that you would like to share with us?
So my number is 7 billion. What's this 7 billion about?
Tell us more about it.
It's a lot, actually. So in the context, the 7 billion, it's the average annual growth in the Luxembourg GDP, which is estimated in a Google report, which was done on the application of generative AI. So each year, the perfect usage of an adoption of generative AI would bring to Luxembourg an additional 7 billion euros increase in GDP. So that's huge.
Wow, that's really massive.
Yeah. So, some of the learnings that come from the report is that it's really important to have a clear AI strategy. And I think that the Luxembourgish government is reviewing its AI strategy for the moment, and it will probably publish Luxembourgish review the AI beginning next year. So this is a perfect timing to get ready for this new wave of AI. Public-private partnerships are also going to be key successful factors, I think, in this context as well. And we have many ideas to put in place. So we need to have this collaboration, this support from both sides. And then, of course, we need investment decisions and investments in AI. So I think we have a very great setup in Luxembourg, but we need to explore much further. And we see a lot of opportunities that we would also like to bring to the government to make that happen. So, and I think also that the latest tax incentive that was proposed by the Luxembourgish government in order to facilitate digitalization, it's just great. So maybe.
And that would be my figure, 18 trillion.
Okay, tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's really around the new investment tax credit that Ananda was referring. So any investment done by players in Luxembourg could benefit from an 18% tax credit when it's really qualified for green transition or digital transition. And that's really an opportunity as well to deploy those investments and really leverage Gen AI in the banking sector and elsewhere, because it's not dedicated purely to the banking sector.
Yeah, it's for the whole country.
Indeed.
It's a great support.
Absolutely. I think, and also you talked about digital transformation and I think big, huge investment needed in technology going forward. You talk about compliance costs, but I think looking forward, it's really technology investment. Therefore, that is a perfect element to boost that, because I think we need that. Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
What a nice conclusion. Thank you very much to all of you, Ananda, Julie and Björn. It was a pleasure to talk with you today and looking forward to our next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.